Hello and welcome to the Ross Cloud Podcast. I'm your host, Car.Ross Sr. And this podcast was created to motivate and to inspire in hopes that you will become a better you. You know, before I get started, I always like to give my shout outs to everybody that are listening. You know, you're taking the time to listen to the Ross Cloud Podcast, and I feel like as a kind gesture, then I try to speak to everyone that listen. Now, I know it's almost impossible for me to get everybody, but I definitely will try, and that's just how much it means to me. I want to give a shout out to everyone listening right here in North Carolina. Stand up. I'm super excited about you guys listening. You guys continue to listen, and I mean, ladies, shout out to my hometown, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the Trefo. Shout out to Greensboro, North Carolina, the Gate City. And shout out to the folks down in Washington, North Carolina. Shout out to the folks that are listening over in Raleigh, in the Raleigh-Durham area. Cary, North Carolina, Knightdale. Thank you so much for tuning in. Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City. Thank you for listening and tuning in, and everybody in North Carolina in overall that are listening. Shout out to the folks down over there in Boardman. I think that's Boardman, North Carolina. You guys are definitely representing, and I'm appreciative for you guys listening. Keep on listening. I hope we're feeding you guys something good that's continues to help you grow and become better. That's what it's all about. Shout out to Danville, North Carolina. Shout out to all of those that are listening in Virginia Beach and Richmond. We got a new listener over there in Alexandria, Virginia. Thank you for listening in the D.C. area and in the Maryland area. Over there in Eeltown, Philadelphia, thank you for listening. Those that are listening in Boston. We got a new listener in Detroit. We got 2 new listeners in Detroit. What's up? Y'all over there jitting, ain't you, over there in Detroit? Yeah, I know about it. I know what y'all do over there in Detroit. What's happening? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening over there on the West Coast, over there in California. Those that are listening over there in Arizona. And if we go abroad to my peoples over there in Brussels, Belgium, what's happening? And listen, I know in the beginning I would always say bonjour to you guys, but as I did my research and everything, you guys speak Flemish over there. And so I had to tighten up on my skills a little bit. And I'm not going to try to speak it right now because I'm still learning. But I promise you the next time that I speak to you guys, I'm going to try to speak a little bit of Dutch and a little bit of, I think it's Flemish or Flemish. I'm not sure, but you guys just correct me on it. Listen, you can always reach out to us at rosscloudpodcast@gmail.com and give me those corrections if I make some mistakes, all right? Shout out to the folks over there in the Middle East, those that are listening in Russia. We're praying for Ukraine, that peace will begin to happen in the nation and all over our world, really, but especially over in Ukraine and Russia, that these things will begin to work itself out. To the Middle East, to Africa, over there in Senegal, thank you for listening. In the Netherlands, thank you for listening. We are very appreciative for you tuning in all over the world, down there in Florida. Listen, man, thank you guys for listening. So listen, we're going to go ahead and get right on into it. I have my very special co-host here in the building. We have the one and only Mr. James Washington Jr., who we call Woo. What's happening?
Yep, what's going on? Glad to be back again. For the
yes, sir. You know, I'm so glad that you were able to join us on today, man. And joining us with us on the platform once again. As you guys know, Wu is the owner of Lunchbox Dreams Media. He's responsible for all of my video work that comes out, and we are partnered up, and we're going to continue to create some great things. Listen, if you haven't had the chance, please check out our Facebook page. And make sure you go and follow James Washington Jr. All right? Make sure you go check him out. What's your handle over there on Instagram?
On Instagram, it's Lunchbox Dreams Media. On TikTok is LBD Media Group. On Facebook is LBD Media Group as well. And my website is www.lunchboxdreams.com.
That's right. He can make all of your dreams come true, nestled in a box. Lunchbox
right.
Dreams, baby. Real simple, but I promise you'll be very satisfied with the work that he does.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Listen, we're going to talk about something on today that I think we need to talk about. I know Mental Health Awareness Month was last month. Was it last month?
Yes, sir.
And so we're going to continue the conversation as we continue to go on, because in my opinion, in most of people's opinion, mental health is 365. It's all day, every day.
Absolutely.
Absolutely it is. So this that we're going to share with you on today, we're hoping that it can help somebody that may be dealing with PTSD, any kind of trauma, any kind of relationship that they're happening. So I'm going to read this first, and then we're going to give you some meanings to some words. All right. So again, we don't claim to be a therapist. We don't claim to know it all, but I'll say this. These are some tools that I've had to help because myself have experienced some trauma in my life. And these are some things that have helped me, that I have personally used during my time in therapy. And listen, there's nothing wrong with therapy. I still go to therapy now. I don't have to go as much because I'm beginning to heal, but I still go to make sure that if there's any triggers or anything that are bothering me, then I just need to go talk about it. So listen, sometimes you just got to talk it out, you know?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So listen, I'm going to read this to you, and this is a handout, again, that was given to me. And listen, when you get information, remember God is the source, and all of these other things are just resources. So these are resources that have helped me enhance and become a better person, and I'm going to share them with you in hopes that it will help you. All right, I'm going to read the title. I'm going to read a small paragraph of this, and then we'll get right on into it. And this handout is Trauma and Relationships. And I must say, I have to give credit where credit is due. This is not my information. This is by Candace M. Monson and Stephanie J. Friedman. And the copyright was 2012 by the Guilford Press. Again, this is information that can be used to help you become better the way that it helps me. All right. So here it is. Trauma and relationship. Exposure to a traumatic experience can cause both individual and relationship problems. Not all trauma reactions are the same, and you or your loved one's reactions may be different from those of other people. Now, in this handout, it'll discuss some of the widespread reactions survivors and loved ones can have after a traumatic event. You know, I've been asked to read this together or as a couple. Again, this is about trauma and relationships, all right? So this information you can share with not only you, but, you know, in a couple relationship too. So this right here will assess feelings, thoughts, and actions and how they may be different since the traumatic experiences that you have are different. The way everybody reacts to trauma is different because we all are human. My makeup is different.
Absolutely. So
we're going to go ahead and get into it. Wu, can you give us the definition of trauma?
All right. So I looked up on Google, and it has two definitions. So I'll read the first one. This is the definitions from Oxford Languages Dictionary. Trauma, 1, a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. And then the second one, it's a physical injury. But I think you kind of want to more so pinpoint on the first one, a deeply distressing or disturbing experience.
Yeah. You know, kind of we can, you know, it just depends on how the conversation leads. Right. If it goes into that,
right,
I'm cool with that. You know, we'll try our best to try to tackle this just based off from some of our life experience without divulging of too much information. But, you know, we just want to make this as simple because there are some people who have that have been in the military.
Absolutely.
That experience trauma.
Yes, sir.
There are some that are in the streets that have experienced trauma.
Absolutely.
Whether it came from a police officer or self-inflicted trauma, meaning things that we do sometimes can cause pain to ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I think this conversation goes across the board, and you may not even know that you have
Right.
The symptoms.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that, Wu?
I love this topic, especially when it's talk about trauma and relationships. Whether it's relationships with your spouse, your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, husband, husband, wife, wife, however you
identify, whatever your thing is, right?
I like
without
that.
being disrespectful.
Absolutely,
yeah, absolutely.
The reason why I like that, and the reason why it's dope that it goes hand in hand, is because this is something that hopefully she doesn't jump down my throat about it. But me and my wife, we talk about it all the time. And
sure.
I told you, her and I, we want to start our podcast talking about
absolutely
stuff like this right
we
here.
Need to.
Absolutely, especially as a couple.
Yes.
So, trauma in relationships. One thing that myself and my wife, we've had to do, and we still continue to do, is we do therapy on our own, separately, because there's things that she's been traumatized by she's dealt with in life, that it can affect our relationship, and vice versa. There's things in my life that I've experienced that can be traumatizing and affect our relationship.
I agree.
So if we're trying to work on the relationship, the marriage, so that it can be the best that it can possibly be, we both have to separately get fixed.
I agree with that.
Get treated. I don't want to say get fixed, but get treated.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because you don't want it to affect the relationship. You know, her and I, we both come from previous marriages where it did not work. It messed us up mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically in ways. And we wanted to make sure that we did not bring that into our marriage.
Absolutely. Learning to work together cohesively in the same space, but still being able to be different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's something that, we both take pride in. We love. We got family members that reach out to us and call us up for relationship advice. And we're grateful for that.
Sure.
That people look at us and say, hey, look, you guys have overcome it.
Grown.
How can y'all help us?
Yeah.
What's some type of advice? And I've been one of those people. She's the same way too. We're both two people that a lot of people come to us and look for advice from us in any aspect of life, not just relationship wise. But that's very important. But that's why I love the trauma and the relationships topics, because it's going to allow couples and marriages to look at each other and say, hey, look, we want to make sure that this work out. What do we got to do? And sometimes it takes you not looking at the other person's faults. But look in the mirror and recognize your own faults. And your own
say that. Sweep around your own front door.
Absolutely. So whatever trauma that you got, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and take accountability for it, regardless if it was your fault or not. But if you're in a relationship, you have to take accountability for that aspect.
I agree.
And then you have to start taking those necessary steps to get treated. So that's why her and I, we do therapy separately.
I think that's necessary.
Deal with it. Absolutely, man.
I do. I think that's necessary. I can totally agree with you on that. Same thing with me and my spouse. We have had relationships in the past, and we've made some horrible decisions and some horrible mistakes along the way. But at the core of it, it was, okay, I got to finally say it's not the other person that has the problem. It's me.
Exactly.
So I got to look at myself in the mirror. I got to go try to figure out. And as much as there's a difference between being aware and giving yourself self-diagnosis. Because sometimes you can self-diagnose yourself wrong. So it's important that we say that. There is a difference between being aware, having awareness, and self-diagnostics. All right. So just make sure that you know exactly what, it's good to be aware, but make sure you don't do it wrong. And I think accountability, I like that word that you used a few minutes ago, being accountable of one's mistakes. That's just saying that, look, I see there's a problem in my life. I keep making the same mistakes over and over again. I keep doing the same showing this being insane, this insanity that people see.
Yes, sir.
I've got to correct it.
Absolutely.
So it's going to start with me. And the only way you can do that is you have to go deep and find out what those traumatic experiences that you went through in your life.
Right.
You got to get to the core of it.
Absolutely.
And find out
Absolutely.
what it is. Yeah.
And a lot of times, sometimes it doesn't necessarily come from the previous relationship. Sometimes it comes from the way you were brought up.
Yes.
So sometimes it can come from mom, dad, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, previous friends.
Speak that
you've had.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily come from your spouse.
No, it doesn't.
That. So it can come from a lineage of a lot of things.
Yes.
And that's why it's very important for people to get therapy so they can break those generational curses.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So that your relationship, not just with your spouse, but everybody else around you.
Yes.
It's a healing process.
Absolutely,
So
it is.
that's why it's very important and stuff like that. That's why I like you said earlier, therapy, I'm an advocate for it.
I am too.
You know,
I think we have to get away. I didn't mean to cut you off. I think we got to get away from the stigma and the taboo of the shame of actually going to get therapy.
Absolutely.
Dude, if it's something you're dealing with, you don't have to deal with that by yourself.
Absolutely.
There's a way that you can get help. There's all these 1-800 numbers that you can get, and hopefully by the time it's we'll try to say it throughout the show. If you would you look up that 1-800 number for me, Woo, if you don't mind, and give the folks that number.
And this is the 1-800 for what again?
Just for mental awareness, suicidal thoughts, because we don't want people to. We just don't want you not to get the help that you need.
Gotcha.
It's important that you address those traumatic things, and I know some things that we go through, it's a lot of shame.
Absolutely.
But you don't have to have guilt, and you don't have to have shame.
Absolutely.
And we're going so far as, maybe it was something that you went through during a military event.
Right.
Whether you went to war, whether you went through domestic violence, whether you were molested, sexual abuse, maybe you've gone through bullying in your life, and there's a such thing as being bullied on social media.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot, even with kids being bullied in the classroom. There is a PTSD, some post-traumatic syndrome that comes along with those things. Maybe you were a person who chose a lifestyle that was not in agreement with what your family agrees with. Here's the thing. We don't want you to die because you say you're gay. We don't want you to die because you want to live a lifestyle that everybody may not agree with or you may not agree with.
Right.
But my goodness, please, we want to see you stay around and live your best authentic self without it being traumatic, without you going into depression and having those feelings of rejection.
Absolutely. So the hotline, this is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It is 1-800-273-8255. Don't be scared or afraid to reach out and talk to somebody. And then another one I got is, this is a 24/7 mental health treatment. This is the number that I pulled up. It's 1-800-854-6025. So utilize those numbers.
Yeah, yes.
Don't be afraid to reach out to your family members as well. But if you feel like nobody's listening to you, don't be afraid to utilize those numbers right there. That's what I would encourage people to do. As far as veterans, you can always dial the 1-800 number for the veteran hotline.
Yes.
And they will give you the number to the VA mental health /suicide awareness hotline. Also, I would encourage, because we're talking to our people.
Yes.
And I think you and I, we talked about it before. My experience with dealing with white therapists. Mm-hmm. Not knocking them at all.
Oh, not at all.
And I know that there's some good ones out there.
Absolutely.
I just encourage our people to go see some of our people who are therapists, because we want to support and, have our back with our communities. I would encourage people to go on these different websites. I'm going to shout out this website right here. It's called therapyforblackgirls.com, www.therapyforblackgirls.com. And then there's another one, www.therapyforblackmen.org.
I like that.
So check
Can you say that
websites.
again? Say that again.
No problem. So you have Therapy for Black Girls, www.therapyforblackgirls.com. And then you have Therapy for Black Men. It's www.therapyforblackmen.org. So, go get seen. Go talk to somebody. Have somebody who is a balanced playing ground for you when you need some help, when it's dealing with trauma or anything when it comes to mental health or mental illness, anything like that. So that's something that I would definitely encourage people to do. It's a few more that
it is a few more out there. And we want to make sure we put emphasis on, listen, we know everybody has to grow to the place where they literally want to get the help, because we know that's the difficult too, to get people to actually go, to get past of the embarrassment, or again, the stigma or the guilt and the shame, or just the fear of actually going to say, hey, I need therapy. Hey, I need some help.
Right.
We want you to go get some help, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we are gentle and that we're not pressing or making you feel bad because you don't go.
Absolutely.
That's the other thing. We want to make sure we put emphasis on that. We don't want you to feel bad because you're not ready to go.
Exactly.
We just want you to take baby steps to say, hey, you're hurting on the inside, and there is no way that you can love anybody unless you love yourself.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to read this to you. Number one, thinking about, there are two major reasons people experience PTSD. And we specifically target these two reasons in therapy. Again, I'm reading like I'm the therapist, but I'm not the therapist, but this is the way it was conveyed to me, okay? Right. So here's number one, thinking about the trauma. One reason people continue to have intense feelings and other difficulties in the wake of trauma is that they find it hard to make sense of the event and how or why it happened, which brings me to what we saw happen in Buffalo.
Right.
What we saw was that in Texas?
Texas, yeah.
And in the middle school. The event.
Elementary school.
Was it elementary school?
Elementary
okay, I'm sorry.
Yes,
middle
sir.
school. Thank you for the correction.
No, you're good.
What we see happening with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the senseless terrorist acts that we've seen just across America in the last couple of years or so. And now that we see the numbers up the way that we see, that is a form of PTSD.
Absolutely.
And then the aftermath, what we were saying is, why did this happen?
Exactly.
Why did this happen to us? This causes the trauma survivor to relieve or re-experience the event in an attempt to understand and make sense of it all.
Absolutely.
And we see that happening right now.
Absolutely.
Even with the event that we saw happening on the Capitol.
Absolutely.
Where they stormed the Capitol. Those police officers.
Absolutely.
They're still dealing with a form of post-traumatic syndrome, some trauma. And they were in relationship with some of those citizens that probably did that.
Absolutely.
So we see trauma happening all across this land, and
Absolutely.
we just don't want you to get stuck and not get the necessary help that you need.
I remember this is when I moved back to Baltimore around 2016 time frame. That's when all the, like in Baltimore, that it was Freddie Gray, and then I remember you had Tamir Rice.
Yeah.
You had I'm forgetting the name. So
I know it.
It was just
Eric Garner.
Eric Garner.
It's quite a few names we could call.
Exactly. It was just a host of black men, black young boys being killed.
Yes.
By police officers. And I remember around this time, and I didn't recognize.
And it infiltrated into citizens.
And I'm about to say that.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was a regular citizen at the time. From my point of view.
Gotcha.
But when all this stuff started happening, I got PTSD to the point where every time I got in the car, and I still do it to this day, I take my wallet out, I put it right next to the steering wheel. I had my my insurance card out, and my cup holder, or in the cup holder area.
Absolutely.
I made sure I had it right there at all times. Usually I would keep my wallet in my pocket and my insurance card in the glove compartment.
Wow.
But when all this was happening, there was such a fear, as well as, like you just stated, there was such a thought of, why is this happening to us?
Yes.
Let me protect myself so it don't happen to me.
Yeah.
That I had to drive like that all the time.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
And it was just crazy. As simple as that is, but that's PTSD for a lot of us black men and black boys that was driving around that time.
Yes, sir.
Like,
Yes, sir.
Because those incidents was happening and we was wondering why it was happening, and then the fear behind it.
Yes.
It caused us to react in a way. We had to do that. You've seen a lot of fathers starting to tell their young teenage boys, when you get pulled over by a police officer, this is what you do. And we shouldn't have had to do that.
No.
But because of the PTSD, fathers were stepping up and starting to teach their sons, this is what you do.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we had to start obeying extra hard.
You know, and that's you're absolutely right. You know, which leads me to this. I'm going to read this right here. It's so ironic that you said that, because the next thing that I was going to read was this. Many things can trigger or prompt these memories and reactions to them. Certain places,
absolutely,
times of day, smells, sounds, people, emotions, and bodily sensations. Partners or other family members can also serve as triggers, particularly if the traumatic event was at the hands of another person. Rape, robbery,
absolutely,
combat,
absolutely.
What we were saying, all of that. That's why we wanted to make sure that this conversation was broad, but we can't forget about even the racism that we, just what you stated, as black men have experienced from the past, and still what we go through today.
Absolutely.
And although that conversation still causes a lot of us to be, we're so fatigued because we have to keep readdressing it. But see, what is happening now is it's infiltrating everyone.
Absolutely.
LGBT community, regular citizens, children.
Absolutely.
The incident that happened in Charleston.
Absolutely.
The Jewish, you don't call them, there was a mosque that got
I know you're talking about
attacked, but it was a Jewish school or church that got attacked in New York.
Right.
So now what's happening is it's not just a race thing. It's not just a sex thing. It's not just a religion thing. It's not just a children's thing. It has become a humanity thing.
Absolutely.
And so we all are experiencing some type of trauma because of the terror that we see happening across our world.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
It's especially when it hits close to home.
Especially when it gets close to home.
A lot of people don't know this. I knew of my cousin, but I didn't have the relationship with her like that, like how my mother and the rest of a lot of family members had. But one of my cousins, she got killed with the Charleston shooting with Dylan Roof.
Wow.
Yep, that Payne Middleton. That's my cousin.
Wow.
So
close to home.
Close to home. So
and all they was doing was praying in church.
Absolutely. So that's another trigger too.
It is a trigger.
Like when something hits so quick. We watch TV all the time. We hear the radio all the time. We on social media all the time. We like, dang.
Yeah.
Because you see it happen to other people. But once it hits close to home, that's another thing that triggers you too, that you got to be mindful and watchful. Because after that happened, and I remember when I found out, I was at work and I broke down because it's a family member. Again, I knew of her. I really didn't have a relationship like that with her, but I knew of her. But when I found out, it was just so hurtful and saddening to find out that one of your own. So that it sparked my security for me.
Absolutely.
I have to be aware of who's around me.
Yes.
What are you doing? Why are you around me?
And that's why that leads me to a great point. Great point. I gotta give you a hand clap on that, bro. That was just a great point.
Word.
Great point, man. Which leads me to That's why we have to be careful of not judging individuals because it's based off of their perspective and the things that they've experienced in their life. We can't take light of their trauma just because it's not directly affecting us.
Absolutely.
Because then we get into inflicting even more pain on that individual.
Absolutely.
If we're judging them.
Absolutely.
That's just like we can't judge. I can't judge that brother or that person that may be of Jewish descent, that person who may be a Muslim, that person who may be part of the LGBT community.
Absolutely.
And the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
I can't judge them based off of why they behave that they behave because they experienced that trauma.
Just like what happened in Orlando with that LGBT.
I was just going to say that.
Club.
Yeah.
Like
those folks dealing with that type of trauma.
Just because a lot of people don't agree with their lifestyle, that does not make them human.
They still human.
We all deal with trauma.
Trauma a different way. Yeah, and we all have certain triggers that we may not understand. I'm learning that even the more so. Even when we see people behave a certain way, there's always a why they're behaving that way.
Right.
When people have outbursts, when they're angry, when they're mad, we need to be asking, well, what's wrong with you?
Exactly.
Why are you behaving that way? Now, they may not want to tell us why they're behaving that way. So if a person's been married multiple times, if a person has a problem with sex, if a person has a problem with smoking weed or this and that, we don't know why that person is behaving the way that they're behaving. The question should be is they need some help. They're crying out.
Exactly.
Why are these young boys, why are these young men killing each other in Chicago? See, that's still another conversation that we still need to be talking about, or period. The fascinations that our kids have with guns and killing each other.
Shout out to the rapper My Sound. I love what he's doing. Stop, bless you. Stop, or he says boycott black murder.
Yes.
I love what that dude is doing and he's a New York rapper, but he's become like an advocate for stopping.
I agree.
Black on black violence in our community.
Yes.
What you see, and you're seeing young men walking up to elders, women, children, and inflicting bodily harm.
Absolutely.
Sometimes killing them for entertainment.
Yes.
Like they got a video going around of a group of boys who took one of their ops child and put him in a trash can, took a picture of it, laughing at it while the child is sitting there crying.
Wow.
For entertainment.
Yeah. For clout.
Black
it's a term they're using nowadays.
It's so depressing, it's so saddening, and it's so hurtful that our culture is doing that to our own people. And I like what My Son is doing, but he's taking the initiative to step up and say, hey, look, the men in the community have to step up.
We do.
And incite change. And the reason why these senseless acts is happening is because there is so much, what's that word? Trauma within our community, especially when it comes to black boys. Yeah.
It's also become just what you said. It's the norm now.
Yeah.
It's the norm to talk about the ops. It's the norm to see guns in music videos. It has become just the norm.
It's scary.
It sells. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it sells.
Right.
You know, and I'm not being a hypocrite because I haven't always been this vocal about it.
Right.
You know, because of my own me being somebody that was in the military.
Right.
Being someone that knows about weapons,
Absolutely.
that cleans weapons, that understands,
Same here.
You know what I'm saying, the responsibility of having a weapon. I understand it. And also, what's so crazy is we fight against, okay, we got to get rid of these guns, but we got to still own our gun too for protection. So it's almost like there's this battle going on again between good and evil.
So let me tell you, I own a gun.
Absolutely. That's the point I'm making. Like, and all own. We exercise, I think it's the Second Amendment. We all exercise our right to bear arms.
Absolutely. And I used to keep it in the house, only for the house.
Mm-hmm.
But this is when, Trump was in office.
Yeah.
And all them white people who was bold enough to step out to start disrespecting black people or other races were stepping out. So there was an incident where myself and my family, we was walking around Walmart. My son, he was young at the time, probably like 1-2 years old. So he's sitting in the cart, the shopping cart. His shoe happened to fall off, which it did quite often.
Mm.
The person picked it up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. So we're walking. I didn't recognize his shoe came off. My wife didn't recognize, nor did our daughters recognize that his shoe came off. But we're walking. My youngest daughter, she's walking to the right of me. My oldest daughter, my middle daughter, and my wife is walking to the left of me. Next thing you know, my son's shoe came and it hit my daughter. And I thought it was my son's shoe. So I knew it was his shoe, but I thought he kicked it. So I looked at his feet and I looked at, my daughter. And my daughter, she turned up and looked at me, just kind of like puzzled. And I was like, "You okay?" And she was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Did you throw that at me?" And I was like, "No." She was like, "Did Bud," that's my son's nickname, Bud, did Bud kick it off? And I was like, maybe he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to turn around and it was a white dude with his wife behind me. And he was like, "Yeah, Bud, I was trying to get your attention, but you couldn't hear me." So I said, "So you took the shoe and you threw it at us?"
Like, dude, that ain't how you get nobody's attention. Ain't nobody no animal.
Absolutely.
Dog. I got you.
So I was like, and I told him there, I said, "You could have came and talked to me, tapped me on the shoulder or my wife on the shoulder and said, hey, here, he dropped his shoe." But around that time, they were so bold. Now, mind you we come from a country that was built on racism. So in my mind,
Facts.
This dude is one of those Trump baiting people.
I got you.
Who just trying to get me to react.
Yes.
So he can react.
Yes.
So from that day forth, and plus I'm seeing it on the news, I'm seeing it on social media, hearing on the radio.
Yeah, exactly.
From that day, I told my wife, I said, "Babe, if I got to catch a charge, I'm willing to do this to make sure that I protect y'all. But my gun is coming with me everywhere we go."
See, right there, that was some trauma you experienced.
Absolutely.
Because if you, that's it. See, that's why it's so much irony in this. Like, okay,
Absolutely.
1 minute you got to be this civilized individual because you're black. You're supposed to be able to show discipline.
Absolutely.
A stable mentality.
Absolutely.
And yet and still you have to take the trauma that's being inflicted on you.
Absolutely.
Them not knowing what you've gone through is triggering something like, ain't nobody going to treat me like this no more.
Absolutely.
I don't know whether you've been raped. That goes for male or female.
Exactly.
I don't know whether you have been somebody who didn't know who they were and just was a people pleaser.
Right.
As we stated in what's to come.
Right.
But they don't know what you've gone through. Only thing they're saying is, well, I can treat that person that way because we see it happening all over the news.
Exactly. And then that
so it's like a rite of passage to say, I'm going to just throw the shoe at them.
And you're supposed to act civilized.
And it ain't always easy to do that.
Man.
Then the first thing, if you pull out a gun, then you the angry black guy.
Exactly.
Then you the angry mad guy. See, it's so much to this trauma.
Yeah.
It's so much to it, Woo, till it's almost like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Absolutely.
If you sit there, that's just like the incidents what we see with Chris Rock. But there's also a clip where Joan Rivers slapped Chris Rock. So the point I'm making is, at what point how does a person deal with their trauma? And that's what we're.
Let's be straight up though. How the thing is, how do the black man or the black woman deal with trauma?
Exactly.
How do
we stand up to trauma?
Yeah.
How do we deal with trauma? And listen, if you guys have some answers, or you guys want to give us an answer, even if you're a professional, if you're a professional from the clinical world, and you can give us the right answer, then please, by all means, please respond.
Absolutely.
You can also reach out to us again at rosscloudpodcast@gmail.com. That's rosscloudpodcast@gmail.com. Listen, we want to hear from you. You know, how do we deal with trauma in our community? Are we supposed to just take it? You know, there's so much trauma. We're taught in our society, be strong. Be strong. Don't pay that no attention. Even from the professional aspect, when it comes to working in environments where traditionally black people are not, they're not there. Doctors, well, we see more doctors, we see more lawyers now, though.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, we own it, baby. You know what I'm saying? But how do we deal with corporate America and still keep without allowing it to traumatize us?
Let's get deeper.
Come on.
Military.
Oh, I ain't gonna even talk about that. I was in there.
Listen to this. So was I. Listen to this story.
We both
so,
yeah, go ahead. Thank you for your service.
Appreciate it. Likewise.
Right on.
Brother.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was stationed in Great Falls, Montana. I worked in the missile field, and I had to go out to the field 5 days. So how our schedule was, we worked 5 days on and have 5 days off in the missile field. And I'm going to show you how racism, I'm going to show you a portion of what racism looks like in the military. And this is why a lot of the times the black men prior to us don't encourage other black men to go into the military.
Oh, wow.
Because again, we're fighting for a country in a system that doesn't necessarily accept us, but want to use us as an extra body. But anyways, that's a different story. Go ahead. This happened right here. It was myself, and I remember his name. He was Nolan. That was his name. So one morning, Nolan was asleep on one of the sofas at the missile alert facility. We call them MAFs. Okay. And he was sleeping. The supervisor who was out there, he comes and he kicks the back of the chair.
What?
Kicks the back of the chair. White dude now. Now, myself is black and Nolan is black. White dude comes to kick the back of the chair because Nolan was sleeping. Yelled at him. Hey, Airman, get your ass up. Yeah, get your ass up. You know you're not supposed to be sleeping, whatever, whatnot, blah, 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 blah. So me looking at the situation, the prior night before, a white airman, one of his little buddies, the supervisor's little buddies, guess what he was doing?
Yeah.
Sleeping on the couch in uniform.
Wow.
Didn't say not one thing to him. Matter of fact, they were actually joking, making fun of him while he was sleeping. But you didn't kick the back of the chair. You didn't yell at him. You didn't curse at him. You let him ride. Wow. But this morning, the black airman, you treated him that type of way. So I said something. Hey,
absolutely.
That's not fair.
Yeah,
because last night when such and such was sleeping, you didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
He had an issue with that. He tried to pull me to the side. Hey, let's go over here and talk. And I was like, no, we're going to talk right here. Yeah. Luckily, it was from the missile alert facility. I forgot what he called him. He pretty much ran the whole facility out there in the missile field.
Gotcha.
He was a black master sergeant. He was like, y'all come to the side.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, although you're right, you still need to do it to the side. And I was just like, and I want to tell him, you're one of us. You're supposed to be supporting me.
I got you.
I didn't say that at the time.
So in other words,
I respected him.
Yeah, he wanted you to follow the proper chain, the right bearing.
Yeah, but guess what?
Yeah.
The military left me because I'm seeing you treating the black person wrong, but the right person a specific way. So the military bearing, that left me. I didn't want to deal with that no more.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to deal with me human to human.
Yeah.
Not with rank.
So
let's get rid of this uniform.
Yes.
Let's get rid of this rank. You're going to talk to me human to human because you're not going to sit here and treat this black airman a certain way, but the white airman who was doing the same exact thing the previous night, you're going to let him get away with it.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the black master sergeant, he pulled me to the side. He said, hey, look, let's just talk to him to the side.
Yeah.
Let's just do it right. I respected him. I said, okay.
Absolutely.
So we go into the office. The supervisor ended up, he was like, hey, look, you're absolutely right.
Yes.
I shouldn't have done that. and this is what he said, but you shouldn't have done it in front of everybody. And I was like, no, I should have.
He did that in front of everybody.
Yeah, but I was talking to the actual supervisor.
Got you. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, because he was like, you should have did it you should have pulled me to the side. I said, no, you did it in front of everybody, so I'm going to correct you in front of everybody. Because again, in my mind frame, this is not a uniform thing.
Nah, now
this is a human to human. This is a black on white thing.
Yeah.
So I need to check you on it. He ended up shaking my hand. I didn't want to shake his hand, but I did it for the black master sergeant that was standing there.
I got you.
But I shook his hand, but I had to let him know, look, stop treating people like that.
Yeah, you got.
But that's what happens within the military. That's a trauma that black people has to deal with within the military.
You have to say that. You have to say that, and I'm glad you brought that up because again, this is basically what we said. We know that trauma is very diverse and when I say very diverse, I mean it happens. There are very diverse traumatic instances that happens in people's lives.
Right.
And they are diverse in the way they feel, how they look,
right,
how it's coming at you.
Absolutely.
And it's based off perspective. It's based off of that individual and what they went through. So we're not going to take light of the experience that James went through, Mr.
Right.
Washington went through at that time, because there are so many people who say, well, stop complaining so much and this and that. No, you can't take light of what happened to him traumatically.
Or try to use their rank to
exactly
dim the light on what was going on.
Exactly. And I just like, I can't take light of that person and what they went through because of their sexual preference, because of even from the fact of what they went through when they went through war times, or that kid who was on the block who was left by his parents, that child or that grown up that's still dealing with, they still haven't faced whether they've gone through molestation.
Absolutely.
So these are things that, or that girl, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Trauma is trauma across the board.
Right.
And I know I said that, there's some ways we can deal with this, but here are four the way you can coping with traumatic stress. So I'm going to read these 4 things. And again, if you have more that you'd like to add to this, please reach out to us. Send us that information, and we'll be glad to read that information on air.
Absolutely.
And that is that our email again is rosscloudpodcast@gmail.com. That's rosscloudpodcast@gmail.com. Send us that information, and we'll be glad to share that information on this platform as we continue to talk about trauma. So here are 4 ways to cope with traumatic stress. Number 1, lean on your loved ones. Identify friends or family members for support. And I know that's easier said than done, because again, we know that some people may not. You want to add something to that?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Some people just don't have the family members or friends to lean and depend on.
Absolutely.
And the reason why for that is because a lot of the trauma comes from the family or the friends.
I love it.
So finding somebody, that's why therapist is very important. We gave those hotlines, we gave those websites.
Yes.
So we definitely encourage you guys to reach out to that. So
absolutely. Number 2, face your feelings. It's normal to want to avoid thinking about a traumatic event. Again, these are just ways that we're saying that you can cope. Now, here's the thing about facing your feelings. It's normal to want to avoid thinking about a traumatic event. It's going to take you time to face those feelings. It's going to take you a little bit of time, and quite naturally, human nature is going to be like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about that. Right. But at some point, we realize that you will have to face it, okay?
Absolutely. Another thing is that a lot of times people keep trying to shift blame back on to the person who caused the trauma.
Yes.
Which you have every valid right to do.
Absolutely.
So. But in order for you to overcome that and start progressing forward, you have to start taking responsibility of saying, I am holding on to this still. I'm holding on to this. I'm choosing to hold on to this. So at some point, you have to stop holding on to it and start making the decision and say, hey, I need to let this go.
I got to face it.
Exactly.
Number 3, prioritize self-care. Do your best to eat nutritious meals. get regular physical activity, and get a good night's sleep. I talk about that a lot. I
Absolutely.
walk.
I agree.
I'm not running. I ain't running no 10 miles. Forget it. But boy, I'll walk you in the ground, though, okay? If you talking about chasing me,
Right.
you can forget it, bro. You're going to catch me. I'm walking.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Listen.
Go ahead.
I agree with doing some physical activity, eating right.
Yeah.
I encourage people, take some time, take at least 45 minutes to an hour throughout the day.
That's
take
it.
Time for yourself. Pray, meditate, do a hobby that you have that you like to do.
Yes.
Like Ross said, go take a walk.
Just take a walk.
Don't run.
Yeah.
Go take a walk or whatever type of
I mean, lift you
exercise
some
that
weights.
do. Lift weights,
Hey.
do yoga.
Yeah.
Just whatever you choose to do. If you got an Oculus, I like using my Oculus. I put that thing on and they got different exercises and stuff like do that.
Yeah.
Eat right, eat healthy.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's easier said than done.
absolutely.
I ain't going to front. That's
Listen,
easier said than done. I'm not the healthiest person in the world.
give me a box of zebra cakes, bro.
No, you did.
Give
Man,
me a
them
box.
little Davis, boy. Them little Davis, boy.
Listen,
God, little
give me
Debbie
a-
cake. God,
Give me a bag
oh,
of
boy.
salt and vinegar chips,
Stop, man.
some zebra cakes, and an
Stop,
orange Gatorade,
stop,
bruh.
Stop.
I'm good.
Goddamn Doritos. Hey, you know what I'm saying? So we get it.
Right.
But that's why I said in number 3, prioritize self-care. Do it in moderation, please. Moderation. You can't eat that stuff every day.
Exactly.
Get you some fruit. Get you an apple, some strawberries, some grapes.
Some cucumbers.
You know, something.
Make you some smoothies. Or
Yes,
something,
man. Okay, and number 4, which I think is big, be patient. Be patient with yourself.
Yes.
Patience, patience, patience. You want to elaborate?
Yes.
Go
Because,
ahead.
like, I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt that one.
Yeah.
Almost like it's like I feel like the tears is about to flow. Like you have to be patient with yours. This like the healing does not come overnight. The healing does not come with one meeting with a therapist.
Oh no.
The healing does not come with one conversation with the person where you can completely express yourself.
Yeah.
Because once you're done with that and then you sitting at home by yourself or amongst family and stuff like that, sometimes those triggers are going to pop up.
Yes, sir.
Like take it one day at a time.
Facts.
This is something that your sister she told me and my wife. She said, "Hey,
ahead.
look, a great idea is for you to do is just when you having that moment, embrace it, but don't stay in it.
Don't stay in it. Yeah, let yourself feel it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got to feel that.
yeah,
Feel it.
but don't stay in it.
Don't stay in it, though.
That's one thing that causes people to
Yes.
relapse back into depression.
That's it.
So, experience the moment.
Yes.
And then whatever you have to do to overcome it, hobby, same thing we just talked about in step 3.
Yes, sir.
Hobbies, eating right, doing some type of physical activity, do that. But be patient with yourself.
Yes, please.
You got to be patient with
Be
yourself.
patient with
'Cause
yourself.
if nobody else is going to be patient with you, you have to do that for yourself.
And so listen, I'm going to run through these real quick. These are last 7. But this last 7 that I'm going to read is just how do you help a traumatized person? Again, we're not acting as if we are accredited and we know everything, because we don't know everything. This is just based off of our own life experiences and some of the things that we visited
Absolutely.
as we've gone through our own traumatic things in our life and continue to heal.
Absolutely.
As we continue to grow and get better. So here's 7 ways that you can help a traumatized person. And you can read this in your leisure at www.mind.org.uk. Right? I'm going to read through these 7 and then we're going to close out. Number 1, give them time. Let them talk at their own pace. It's important not to pressure or rush them. Number 2, focus on listening. You can't do a whole lot of talking when you're helping somebody. Just focus on listening. Number 3, accept their feelings. Whatever your thoughts are, they have to die. Number 4, don't blame them or criticize their reactions. Again, we don't know what they went through. We don't know how, what, when, or whatever that person did to them. All right. So number 4, don't blame them or criticize their reactions. Number 5, use the same words they use.
Absolutely.
However they saying it, you say it the same way. Number 6, don't dismiss their experiences. Just what we say is we can't take light of what they have gone through. And number 7, only give advice if you're asked to.
Absolutely.
Only give advice if you're asked to.
Those 1 through 7, in other words, this is what he's saying, and this is what the author of that person who wrote it on their website. You have to remember, it is not you.
That's right. It's them.
So your feelings is canceled out.
That's
you
right.
have to be empathetic enough to understand.
Ooh, good word.
What they're going through, what
Yes,
they're
sir.
thinking about, and what's happening.
That's it.
And I'm going to shut up.
Nah, you good, man. Listen, do you have access to that 1-800 number again?
Yeah, let me
Directly in front of you. We want to leave you guys with this. If you've experienced trauma and you're having trauma through your own relationships, as we stated before, we don't claim to know it all, because as we talk to you, we talk to ourselves. Go get the necessary help that you need. Be aware of what's going on with you, but don't self-diagnose yourself. What's that 1-800 number, Will?
All right, so one of them is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It is 1-800-273-8255. There's another one. It's 1-800-854-6025 for all you veterans. I can't remember the number off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But you can go on the website, va.gov. I'm pretty sure they'll help you on there. And then again, for our black women, our black men, www.therapyforblackgirls.com. That's therapyforblackgirls.com. Black men, therapyforblackmen.org. www.therapyforblackmen.org.
I love it. So listen, if you're going through domestic violence as well, there's also a number there for women that are going through domestic violence. Google it and get the necessary help that you need. Listen, this is the Ross Cloud Podcast. I'm Car.Ross Sr.
And I'm Woo.
And we are out.
Yep.
Peace.